Hello and welcome to podcast number 40 from the Self-Publishing Formula.
Two writers, one just starting out, the other a bestseller. Join James Blatch and Mark Dawson and their amazing guests as they discuss how you can make a living telling stories. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Life begins at 40, right, Mark?
If you say so. I think, I've probably said that a few times myself.
Yeah, I'm going to be saying life begins at 50 at some point in the next few months. I know. Okay, so we've got quite a lot to get through today before our interview. And our interview is with somebody who's an encourager and an inspiration for entrepreneurs online, particularly authors. He's a book writer as well. But also he's very big on you as a brand and spending your time doing that. And we talked about the fact that for quite a few authors, this might be taking them out of their comfort zone. And he's got some advice on that. Now, particularly if you've got non-fiction, he's got lots of ideas of how to monetize that and how the areas you should be working at and the mindset you should have as a non-fiction author, but not just non-fiction, anyone who's online and selling their products. So his name is Chris Duck and he's coming up in just a few moments. Before then, we've got a few things to announce, and one is the competition. So we ran the Reedsy competition over a few weeks. We had loads of entries for this, and we're not surprised we had loads of entries, right, Mark? Because the prize was great. The prizes were great.
It was really. I can't remember how much it was now. It's $3,000.
$3,000 worth of author services from Reedsy, and that was the first prize. And then there were specific second prizes, or 600 for cover design and so on. So, okay, so I can announce the winner with a little bit of a drum roll, and the winner pulled at random by our machine was Selina Silcox. And Selina has already been in touch. We've been in touch with her via Reedsy to collect her prize. And we have three runners-up who are Shay Darksbane, Andrea Hulson, and Rebecca J, who writes under the name RJ Theodore. So congratulations to all four of you. You've got a fantastic prize, and you've got some money there with Reedsy to really put into the professional side of your books. Commiserations to everybody else who entered. I know it's disappointing to enter and not win a competition, but we had, as I say, many entries for that. So thank you. And thank you to the guys at Reedsy who do a great job in making it very convenient and a one-stop place to find professionals who will make the difference between your book being indistinguishable from the HarperCollins and the Penguin stuff next to it.
Yeah, no, great competition, and as you say, we had several thousand entries. So congratulations to those four for being picked out.
Okay, now talking of being professional, you've been professional with Amazon this week, Mark. You're sort of in between Amazon gigs, aren't you? You were in Dublin a couple of days ago. What were you doing?
Well, they had an event with writing.ie. So they basically flew out about, half a dozen Amazonians, me and another indie author called Louise Ross, and a couple of Irish indies. And we basically were there on Saturday from 8 till 5 for a kind of in-person event, Q&A, presentations and things. It was also streamed live online and given some push from KDP, and I think it went quite well. It was a long day. I got there, I flew out on Friday and then flew back on Saturday. And the hotel we were staying in, it was a bit ominous because New Zealand were playing Ireland on Saturday night in the rugby. Yeah. And the hotel we were in was where the Irish rugby squad were staying.
Oh, okay.
So that could have been interesting. And Sean Penn was there as well. So that was that was entertaining.
Sean Penn and the Irish rugby team. I mean, that is a recipe for fighting, if ever I've heard one.
Probably. But it was very good. So that was fun. Well attended event, very professional. I had a full kind of broadcast rig there for streaming it live on YouTube. So it was with 3 cameras. You'd have been in your element, James. It was really pro. And then tomorrow I'm going down to London for another full day event. In the morning I'm being interviewed by someone from The Guardian about small business and what platforms like Amazon can do to enable you to reach customers at scale. So I'm talking about books, obviously, and there's other people talking about other things. And then in the afternoon, they've invited people interested in writing. So there'll be me and one other author, Tally Rowland. We're doing 2 presentations in the afternoon. So And then it will be a pretty full day tomorrow. So early start, back late, and of course there's other small things on our plate as well that we're trying to do as good a job as possible with books and course launches and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so that's good and good for you for your profile and so on. So obviously Amazon, you're a bit of a pin-up boy for them at the moment, which is nice to be in touch with the biggest bookseller on the planet.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, obviously I've been working with them for ages now, and it's lovely to be invited to those kinds of things. It's nice to give something back.
Good. Okay, and for people who want to rub shoulders with Amazon, if you're in the UK, they have a good presence at the London Book Fair, and there's no doubt that I think we'll be there again this year. And I know a couple of people have already told us that they're coming over from the States for that this year. So I say this year, it'll be 2017, of course, in the spring. But that's a really good opportunity, isn't it, for authors to stand and talk to people from Amazon and pick their brains a little bit, because they'll be on the stands all day, find out what's in their minds for the future, get some hints and advice from them, and generally some encouragement. So if you do fancy popping along to the London Book Fair, and come and say hello to us as well, but we'll talk more about that closer to the time. Okay, as Mark says, we're in that bit now where in NASA parlance, they've done all the training up in Houston area. They built the stuff on the West Coast in California there. They did all the training in Houston, but now they all migrate down towards Florida for the launch. And we're at that bit now where we're starting to get into launch control for the 101 course. It's been a huge effort. We've never had more people working on a single course than we've had for this one. We've got people around the world who've been contributing to it and who are working through the testing phase. We're still putting stuff together. I think people will be surprised when they see some of the screen flows, that the dates on the screen flows are something like the 21st of November as we're going through doing stuff, thinking, wow, they did this quite late. And we're working up to the wire on this because we want the process of launching a book and to be very real. And well, a little spoiler is that the beta testing, which we were nervous about, of course, because you work hard on something and it goes out to strangers, but the beta testing comments have been fabulous. So we're quite excited now.
Yeah, they have been really encouraging. So it's always nervous when you send something out, and we've had a couple of people go through it from start to finish and have really gotten lots out of it, and we're rolling it out slowly to a couple of other beta testers as well. So it would have been tested extensively before we put it out properly, and comments will be taken into account. We'll make some changes. It is that interesting time now when we're getting ready to launch. And you are very geeky for making that analogy, but you know that already.
Yeah,
but one thing
it's a good analogy.
It is a good analogy. One thing worth noting, we've got, it's not just me, there are some we've kind of roped in some industry experts to also present segments for us. So Stuart Bache, who's my cover designer, has done a really brilliant session on cover design. Brian Cohen's done a great session on writing blurbs. And really pleased and excited to say that BookBub are going to do a session for us as well. So we're just in the process today of having that recorded. But BookBub themselves are going to present a session on their featured deals and their ads platform. So that's going to be of tremendous value for those people who don't know BookBub. They are an absolutely superb company and really powerful when it comes to broadcasting your books out to millions now of interested readers. They're very well known as the best of those kinds of email list service companies. So we're delighted to have them actually telling us about how to get BookBub deals, how to use their ads platform. Really excited to have them on board.
Yeah, and that's a coup for us to have BookBub on. And when I say a coup for us, I mean the whole community, because obviously we create courses, we host podcasts, and we create a Facebook group. But the SPF community, I think people like BookBub are now looking at this community as being a place where a significant number of the authors who are pushing forward with their careers are now gathering, and it's a fantastic place to be at the moment. And we're honoured really that BookBub immediately said to us, we want to be a part of this, and we've got their material in house now, and that's exciting. That's going to be that module by itself, I think, is the module that's going to appeal to people at every stage of their author career. Even the more advanced will want to hear from BookBub personally about how they advise going about their various aspects. Good.
Yep.
Okay, look, let's press on, because we've got this interview with Chris, which is in video. So if you're watching this on the YouTube website, you'll see Chris from his home, which at the opening looks like, I think I point out, it looks like it's 17 Acacia Avenue, Portsmouth or something in England, but he's not. He's thousands of miles away, although he's very English. So Chris, he has a background probably known to a lot of people for virtual assistants. So he started a VA company. Now, virtual assistants is something that if you have a digital company, whether you're an author or anything else, at some point you're going to start thinking that you need some help, and it's a little bit of a minefield to negotiate. We've been very lucky with SPF and the VAs that we've had join our team so far, and Chris is an expert in that area. But more than that, he's about brand. He's about how you build your presence, and in particular, as I said, if you're a non-fiction author. So let's listen to Chris, and we'll be back after that. Chris Ducker, okay, look, thank you so much indeed for joining us. What looks behind you is a very normal English scene. I would say you could probably be somewhere in southern England, Acacia Avenue in Southampton.
Complete with the toilet roll for cleaning the desk as well.
There is a toilet roll.
I thought I'd leave that in there.
and an English phone box. But let's start by saying that you're many thousands of miles away from your home.
I am. I'm based in the Philippines. I've been here 16 years, but I'm about as proud of a Brit as you will come across. There's a lot more British paraphernalia behind me. I've even got a Smeg fridge over there in the corner full of beer. And no, I'm a very, 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 very proud Brit. And look, even the Queen's Guard looks after me on my desk as well.
I can hear Land of Hope and Glory.
I was going to say, the very large majority of the stuff you see behind me, though, it's actually being sent to me by my online community, which is great. I mean, I love getting all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of Union Jacks in this house, but we probably need to start paring back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, when you come back. Okay, look, because let's get into this. Can you, first of all, give me an introduction to who Chris Ducker is?
Yeah, I'm a sales and marketing guy. That's what I am. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. I dropped out of uni and decided to go into the publishing world, not book publishing, but periodicals. So the company I was working for in London, big firm, and in Pimlico, and I was with them for almost 8 years. We did everything from the British Medical Journal down to Lingerie Monthly, you name it. And it was a very, very big firm, and I did very well as a sales guy. I was running sales teams for them. And that's kind of what brought me to the Philippines initially in the year 2000. I was basically hired by one of the international banks here to come in and kind of help them with their local efforts on their personal loans, their credit cards, and that sort of type of stuff. And within a few years of being here, I created my own network, my own contact list, so to speak, and I started, consulting for the majority of it was American firms, setting up call centers and things like that here. And eventually I said, well, hell, if I'm going to do it from other people, I might as well do it for myself. So that's exactly what we did. And, then I got active online in 2010. I still own the outsourcing business. I still own the call center and virtual staff finder, the VA hub. And although I'm not day-to-day involved with those businesses anymore, what I focus on now is blogging and podcasting and coaching. And that's ultimately, content creation 101 stuff, and helping, personal brand entrepreneurs such as authors to build their brand further online through creating high quality, consistent content online. And then not only to be able to sell more books, but also to be able to market themselves as an expert in their niche, as well as obviously monetize that expertise as well.
So, Chris, 2010, I mean, from modern digital entrepreneurs, that makes you a veteran because,
I'm a dinosaur.
You are. Well, I don't mean to be rude about it, but a lot of the guys who are very big, well-known names in this space started 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
But you obviously saw it early on. So from your early adopting stance, tell us how it's changed and were things easier at the beginning than they are now for people getting into this?
I think, yeah, that's a really good question. I think overall things, I don't know, easy. It's kind of 50-50 because it was easier to stand out because there wasn't as much competition, right? I'm coming up almost 7 years now. So yes, it was easier to kind of grab the market a little bit more and become known a little faster because there wasn't as many people in your niche, in your industry, your market, whatever, doing what you are now doing. But that being said, the game has changed so much with social media. I mean, yes, Twitter and Facebook and everything was around back 7 years ago, as we all know, but it wasn't the way it is now. And particularly with something like Facebook advertising, you know, I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but I love those adverts. Oh, I love the hell out of those adverts. So you can get traffic to your website a lot faster than you could back 7 years ago. You can get traffic to your landing pages. You can build your email list a lot easier because of the paid advertising that particularly Facebook has been able to kind of, you know, they've opened that door. They've made it easier to build your list faster. Although I don't necessarily think building your brand is as easy as what it was back 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Okay, well,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and let's talk about building your brand, because this is something when we talk a lot about how authors are not necessarily going to feel comfortable being business people anyway. I mean, it's something that it's not the same thing as the creative talent of writing. And some will always struggle with it. And even within the business, even when they've got their head around Facebook advertising and doing the blurb and setting themselves up technically, the bit you're talking about, this kind of almost, I hate to use the expression X factor because it's been used to death elsewhere, but this brand building, that is an area that's taking some people out of their comfort zone, but it's so important, right?
It is. It's very important because, you know, I call it the business of you, which was a keynote that I did for the first time about 3 years ago at a very, very large conference in Vegas. And it kind of ruffled up rather a few feathers at the time, because I was saying, you know, even if you don't want to do it, even if you don't want to stand out, you must as much as you possibly can, because being different is better than being better. It's not just about being better than your competitor or having more experience than your competitor. You've got to be different. You've got to stand out. You've got to be you. You've got to do you. And so it's very, very important to build your personal brand, particularly as an author. I mean, one of the big, you know, probably two of the easiest ways to be able to monetize your brand as an author is through coaching and through speaking. And really, they're one and the same if you think about it. Almost everything I do in my coaching sessions with my clients, I'm doing on stage and on keynotes and vice versa. And so I think it's very important to build your brand. And I think really the main reason why people should be focused on this is because what I call my P2P philosophy to relationship building. That means people to people, you know, business to business, business to consumer, but P2P. People nowadays, more so than ever, particularly with the social web being the way it is, we are more likely to know, love, and trust somebody that somebody we know already knows, love, and trusts, right? We're more likely to go ahead and start following somebody based on the recommendation of somebody that we already know and trust ourselves. But even more importantly, we are more likely to do business. We are more likely to spend with somebody that we know, love, and trust. And that right there is exactly what every author, what every personal brand entrepreneur should be doing, is focusing in ultimately at the end of the day in becoming somebody's favorite. We want to be somebody's favorite productivity author or favorite business coach or favorite whatever it is. That's what we need to do. We want to become somebody's favorite.
So this is sorry, my microphone's just gone quiet. This is the familiarity thing, and this doesn't this goes back actually all the way to the 7 touches of selling, those familiarity steps along the way to somebody feeling comfortable enough to make a purchase from you, I guess. The big question is, Chris, and we always try to provide some value to our podcast listeners. How do they do that then? What are the practical steps an author, for instance, should be thinking about?
Well, the first thing they need to do, if they're not doing it already, is they've got to get their social media platforms built out properly. It never ceases to amaze me how lazy people are when it comes to their social media. They have different profile photos on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. They have different cover images. They use different rhetoric on different on different platforms, different links, and all these things. Like, just the consistency in the same profile pic, the the same cover pic, and it's fine to change it if you want to promote something at a certain time. Go ahead and do that. That's absolutely fine. But the bottom line is that like that idea of having that consistency from one platform to another, no matter when anyone finds me, they know who they're finding, and it's very, very, very clear. So that's the first thing they need to do. Get your social media in check ASAP. The second thing is that, particularly when it comes to authors, you need to start creating online content on a very consistent, regular basis. Just because you've written a book that's got 60,000 words in it doesn't mean that you should not be blogging once a week at 600 or 700 words. You must be creating content for two reasons. Number one, to serve your audience, because we must serve before we have the ability, or quite frankly, the right to be able to sell in the 21st century, right? You got to serve first, then sell later. And the second reason why is because it's that consistent, high-value, original-based, focused content on solving people's problems that would ultimately have them getting onto your email list, coming to your live events, buying your coaching product, pitching in when it comes to promoting your next book launch, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So I think get your social media in line, start creating good quality, high impact, original online content on a regular basis. And it doesn't need to be blog posts. It can be a podcast. It can be a YouTube video once a week. It doesn't matter what it is. Just consistency is key. You want to be front of mind all the time.
It's a great time to be a consumer on the other end of this, because the way that you talk about is the way certainly SPF runs and other organizations that we like and work with run, is that they put out lots and lots of stuff for free. Lots of value-added stuff, and there will be thousands of people who have contact with you who will never buy anything from you, and yet will grow and learn and become better business people as a result of that. And I understand this, I'm converted by this, but some people will think, well, that's a lot of time and effort you're giving away for free.
It is, but you shouldn't think of it as giving time and effort away for free. I think it's a mindset. You've got to hit the pause button right there. If you're the kind of entrepreneur that I want to work with, then you don't think like that. You think long game. It's everything we do, as you well know, James. I mean, it's a long game. You must have that long game approach to creating content, marketing your brand, coming up with helpful courses and products and services, spending time on the speaker circuit, doing all the, it's a long game approach. Relationships should be treasured, not used. And so if all you're looking to try and do is get that quick buck all the time, and by the way, people can smell that level of BS from a mile away nowadays. We are way, way smarter today than we were 10 years ago as a global consumer base, right? So it's that long game approach. It's not about giving stuff away for free. Should you ultimately stop doing that and then start charging for certain things? Yes. Absolutely. Don't be shy. You should absolutely want to make money doing what you're doing. But you also have to appreciate and understand that to be able to get to the point where you can put a price tag on something, you've got to understand what your customers want. And creating content and getting blog comments and tweets and Facebook messages and Periscope conversations back from them in real time, that's gold. They'll give you everything you need to be able to produce a product that you can put a price tag on because you're providing a solution to someone's problem.
Now, for non-fiction authors, I think this is going to work very well. How do you adjust this for fiction authors? For the vast majority, probably, of our listeners write novels. The speaker circuit and so on is perhaps not the same to them, but there are other things they can do, right?
Yes, certainly. I've worked with a fiction author before, actually, as a client, and her big issue was that she's not a salesperson, she's not a business person, yet she obviously needs to make a living. And so we went from her basically really just making royalties, and she was doing very well from a royalty perspective. She was doing audio books as well, where she was reading the books herself and doing quite well, selling her own audiobook versions of her books. But that was kind of it. And so we produced a number of coaching slots for her on a monthly basis. I think we started with 3, and then she doubled it relatively fast because she had such a huge interest from her readership in wanting to learn how to write great fiction. And so she started doing coaching sessions at I think she charged like $400 an hour to begin with. And I think now she's now up to almost $600 an hour. Then she put together her first little, from zero to fiction type course where she talks people through developing, characters and worlds and all that kind of stuff to be able to come up with all these great ideas from a fiction-based author perspective. And she's actually now just about to run her first in-person 2-day fiction authorship mastermind or / kind of event workshop kind of thing. So there's still certainly plenty of ways to be able to monetize your work as a fiction author above and beyond your writing. And here's the thing, and you probably know this already, but a lot of your viewers and your listeners probably might think that this is the case, but they don't have unequivocal, proof. I'm going to give it to you right now. People are happy to pay for access to other people, more so today than ever before, because we value, I think as a society, we value experience and success for the right people, obviously. We value that experience and that success more so than we have done before because we can see it clearly on the internet. You know who's doing things right and who's doing things wrong. It's clear to see in the way that you put yourself across, the things that people say about you, and so on and so on. So, give your time up for things like coaching and live events. It becomes a bit of a no-brainer for any type of author. Quite frankly, it's the lowest of the low-hanging fruit out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to one or two practical things. So you're out there in the Philippines, I'm here in the UK, and we talk to people who work in this sort of digital space who are wherever they want to be. And that's actually, for me, one of the glorious things about this, more than anything else, more than actually using money as a metric, is working from home and living a much more flexible life than I've ever done before. To get this working and set up properly, one of the things I know you've become a bit of an expert at in the world in the past is virtual assistants and finding a team that's going to help this work. And I know a lot of our authors are getting to the point now where they need help. What's your advice to them? What should they be looking for?
Well, I mean, you've got to be looking at building a team rather than just getting help. I think that's the important thing. If you need help, then you hire a freelancer, and that's what you get. You get someone to come and help you do this task or that task. But if you have the mindset of wanting to build a team, you're going to be looking to hire for the role rather than the task itself. And that's really the biggest thing. Understand that hiring people to help you virtually is no different in any way whatsoever than hiring people to come and work in your office. People are people, employees are employees. And actually, you go to even an open planned office with no walls nowadays, any office space in the planet nowadays, the very large majority of communication internally, even if they're all in the same building, is via things like Slack and Gmail and instant messaging. They're not even really talking to each other all that much. So you don't really need to be in each other's presence now. And I think that's the big thing, is to understand that one person cannot do the job of 5 people. Yet the problem is that, particularly online, a lot of people claim that you can hire one person that can help manage your website, help design your graphics for social media, help upload your YouTube videos, help edit your podcast, yada, 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 yada. And it's not the case. Not if you want it done properly. I mean, you wouldn't hire a plumber to come and fix your roof and vice versa. And so you've got to look at it like that. Be very, very pragmatic in the way that you break down the roles that you need to be able to grow your business. But ultimately, start with that mindset of hire for the role, not for the task, unless all you've got to delegate is a one-off task, and then it's a different ballgame, obviously.
And where do people find the best VAs? Where do they start?
Well, I mean, depending on, okay, so really there's really 3 ways to hire people, right? The first way is that task-based. So it's, say, for example, you wanted to get a transcription done of this conversation. It's a one-time job. It's a task is what it is. You would then go to one of the job posting websites out there like Odesk or Upwork, I think it's called now, or Freelancer or something along those lines, or maybe even just a good old-fashioned transcription service. And you give them the audio file, they type it all out, you pay easy money. Thank you very much for playing. One-time task. The second way to delegate and outsource is to do project-based outsourcing. Perfect example would be, say, a website redesign. It needs more than one person, right? So you might have a graphic designer to help you with the layout. Then you'll need to get an actual developer to do the coding for you. Maybe you'll bring on board a copywriter to help you with sales copy if you've got products or landing pages on the site as well. So you'll have 2 or 3 people maybe working on one project. It is still a one-time thing, but it's not going to take a week. It might take 3 or 4 months until you're happy to hit the go button, right? So with that case, you might have to pay people on a monthly or retainer basis. Possibly, if you can, you pay them just for the project. And that way you know that they're not going to be stringing things out on you, right? And then the third way is my favorite way, and that is to hire team members, actual individuals to come on board in your business, either part-time, 20 hours a week, full-time, 40 hours a week, and ultimately build that team of people around you. Graphic designer, web developer, copywriter/transcriptionist, audio video editor, and so on and so on. So you've got this team of people around you to help you do all the things that you want to do. And I mean, look, I'm not going to turn it into a pitch fest, but virtualstafffinder.com, one of my businesses, was clearly set up to bridge that gap between stressed out entrepreneur and high experienced virtual assistant in the Philippines. And that's exactly what we do. It's a recruitment service. That's it. Honestly, there are plenty of other VA companies out there, but I wouldn't be the type of entrepreneur that I am if I just talked about mine only. Next question.
Quite happy for you to do that, Chris. You're in the brand work you're doing with people. What's your gauge on how big and growing this industry is? I mean, it's funny we work in this space, but all the stuff I hear, I listen to Radio 4 every morning here in the UK, and they talk about business, and it's almost as if they have no idea this is going on. They talk about Brexit and steel production and car parts being exported and stuff, and there's this billion-dollar industry that never gets any airtime on mainstream radio, and my friends don't even seem to understand it. But you must see it all the time, more than I do, how big it's growing and how fast it is.
Yeah, I mean, because of the speaking that I do, the majority of the speaking I do is in the United States. It's kind of where I'm known as a speaker within the personal branding business space. The UK, I'm moving back to the UK, as I mentioned to you, next year. So I'm hoping to sort of try and start bringing it home a little bit, quite frankly. It's a huge market. The UK is ripe for it. And I don't know what level of, percentage your audience is in the UK or anything, but, Brexit, for example, should not be concerning entrepreneurs in any way, shape or form. You want to know why? Because you don't need anyone but you to make your business a success. That's my thought process on it entirely. I'm not concerned about Brexit. I don't think anybody else should be, quite frankly, if you're an entrepreneur. Now, if you're in the steel business, maybe. Yeah, fair comment. But I'm pretty sure the majority of your viewers and listeners and fans are not in the steel business. They're authors writing either fiction or nonfiction books. So, the grand scheme of things, really, honestly, is I think the UK is approximately 3 to 5 years behind the United States when it comes to pretty much everything digital entrepreneurship, not just personal branding, but I think also content marketing. I think live streaming. I think YouTube video marketing. Do you know how much potential there is on YouTube for entrepreneurs in the UK right now? It is wide bloody open because there's hardly anybody doing anything in the business space on a very, very regular, consistent basis. Yeah, you've got these bloody teenagers and these 20-something vloggers that are doing great and everything, but creating no real content. They're just showing their lives and people fall in love with them. But the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of opportunity in markets like the UK, and we are behind. We're just behind. That's honestly what it is. And I feel like the UK is very, very ready for this. The problem, like you say, is Radio 4 and the other mainstream media. They ain't talking about it.
No.
They're just not bringing it to the people. So it's down to you and I and people like us to go ahead and do that in our own way, in the way that we feel like we can deliver and serve the best.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And we, people join our Facebook groups from wherever they are in the world, and some people will buy our online courses, and it's completely transparent to us whether they're in Austria, Washington, D.C., or the United Kingdom. And then when people say to me, how's Brexit going to affect your company? I'm thinking, I have no clue how the EU affected it before, how it's going to affect it afterwards. It's meaningless. We live in a global business, not a restricted to anywhere.
It really, truly is a global economy nowadays. And I don't think, I think, the stock markets freak out. But other than that, I don't think anybody should be overly worried about Brexit any more than they are a Trump administration or any other big political / governmental change. Change is a constant, and it's always there. It's death, taxes, and change. They're the only three things that you can really be 100% assured of in life. And if you don't learn how to roll with the punches, if you can't learn how to pivot and change when the need arises, then you're going to have problems, big problems. And I feel like, particularly with things like Brexit, for example, I think a lot of this stuff is blown very much out of proportion by the mainstream media. They need to report it. They're sometimes maybe a little weak on content, and they try and kind of string things out a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, think what happened. And people talk about change and how disruptive it is and uncertain the world is today. And I think, well, look back to the 20th century. Look what happened in the first 16 years of the 20th century. 1.5 million people were dead in global conflict, and boundaries of countries had changed. By the middle of the century, by 1950, 45 million people were dead. I mean, what our grandparents went through, they'll talk to you about change. And I agree. Changing the trading relationship with our neighbours, or who's president, who's slightly eccentric for 4 years, is really, we should get our feet back on the ground. Completely agree with that. And I think we're in exactly the right space to exploit perhaps other people's perception of uncertainty if you offer solid products that are going to change people's lives and release them from that world, release them from that 9 to 5.
Agreed. I believe the only change we should be focused on as entrepreneurs is the change that we can bring the people that we come into contact with. And obviously, we're looking for positive changes, not negative changes in that regards.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing better in the world for us to see than somebody who's been writing for a few years and finally gets it and makes that breakthrough and suddenly has their partner working for them.
I love it.
They're at home. It's the best thing in the world, yeah.
I love it. Just as a quick aside, a very quick tale here. I was working with a dental practice owner in all places, Jamaica, as a client a couple of years ago. And she had ultimately been a dentist her whole life. She was in her probably mid-40s or so. She came to me and said, we're doing really well. She had 5 different places based out around Jamaica and neighboring islands and all the rest of it. And she came up to me. She came to me and she said, I want to build my business, but I don't want any more locations. I don't want to hire more dentists. I don't want to I want to help other dentists build their businesses. And we're doing really well with Facebook ads. I think we could teach other people how to do this. So we sat down and we devised a strategy for her on how she could teach other dental practice owners how to grow their businesses and their practices via Facebook ads to begin with. She launched a little, I think, 4-video course at $297 or something. And out of the gate, she sold 300, like that. Didn't even think about it. And now she's just put the finishing touches on a course, which I believe she's priced up at, I think, $800 or something. And in her first week, she made $33,000 serving people in her industry based on nothing but sheer purloin experience. And that's what I'm saying. People will pay for that access. And if you're doing a great job, they'll be happy to pay for it. So there's definitely that positive change that we can affect. And when you see people move their own needles like that, it is very, very rewarding. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, look, we're going to finish up, Chris. I think it's worth just reiterating the quality needs to be there. There's a lot of things need to be in place, but it's absolutely essential that what your product is offering, when you do ask for that money, this is stuff that is going to have an impact on people and can change them, right? We can't, because there are, without question, this space is also open to people who don't have the quality behind them, and it can be exploitative, and we need to be wary of that.
And that's, it's a good and a bad thing. That entry barrier online is at an all-time low. I don't think it's ever been any lower. And because of that, like you very clearly point out, there's a lot of, should we say, slightly more unscrupulous people out there that want to try and pull the wool over people's eyes, that want to try and make a quick buck. And these are the people, as we all know, will come and go in the night, and very few people will really even notice it. Unfortunately, however, sometimes they leave that dent in one person's life that you and I know we could help. And they're very trigger shy, they're gun shy. They don't want to, go ahead and pull the trigger because of the bad experience they've had before in the past. And it's unfortunate, but you're absolutely right. And it's down to us good guys. It's down to us to set that bar higher. And even actually, if we have to physically move the bar ourselves by doing live events, by speaking, physically actually help move that bar higher, that's what I'm focused on. I genuinely want the bar to be as high as it can in any industry that I want to touch, because I know if I bring value and consistency and originality to that, then I'll win every single time based on these other jokers that are out there trying to make a quick buck.
So Chris Ducker is coming back to the UK, Mark, and I live in Cambridge and you live in Salisbury, and he said to me the two areas they're looking at are Cambridgeshire and Salisbury. So one of us is going to have...
Coincidence?
Yeah, yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, he told me first. So one of us is going to have him on our doorstep. But he's obviously... I mean, there are a few people who have this sort of unending amount of energy and laser-like focus on the digital area and how it works and where it's going and how to make the most of it. And Chris is one of those people, so you can listen to him for hours, really. And it's important to listen to him and hear his tips and the areas he thinks you should be working at. And we talked a bit in the interview about the fact that this is a burgeoning industry, it's a blooming industry, it's worth billions, and it's largely ignored by mainstream press, largely ignored by mainstream industry, and that will probably be the case for another decade, at least another decade yet. And so there is huge scope for people who've got their eyes open, their heads switched on, to make merry in this area. And for authors in particular, well, just look at the difference some of the authors in our community are making to their careers once they start to unlock the secrets of the digital space.
Absolutely. He's I've been listening to Chris for a while, and one of the things that I did, and I still do, I've kind of broadened my education now. So I listen to podcasts and I read blog posts and get involved with communities outside of the traditional book publishing space, because at the end of the day, this is digital marketing that we're doing. So we can learn plenty of things from other experts in other areas of the market, which is, I'm excited about going to this thing tomorrow with Amazon, because there's going to be people there from all kinds of different digital industries. And we can talk about things like customer acquisition, and that's just as relevant for an author as it is for someone selling widgets, or Uber, or people delivering food with apps, and all of that kind of stuff. It's all relevant. Lead generation, it's all the same kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I'd say. I mean, I'd listen to people like Chris and go beyond what you would normally say would be where you should be getting your education from as an author, because you can learn things from just about anywhere these days.
Great. Okay. Listen, you can probably hear my computer. Listen to this. That's just the fan. This MacBook Pro has been absolutely thrashed to death, and it's got to last about another 2 weeks or 3 weeks until we get our new ones. But that's the 101 course has done that to my computer. You realise that?
Well, I was going to say, for people who watch on YouTube, normally your cat is behind you.
It's too hot.
But what's the cat called again?
Primrose.
Primrose. Well, what people can't see is Primrose the cat is actually on a treadmill underneath James's desk, and is responsible for powering the fan that's keeping James's PC from not exploding.
Actually, the cat's normally... I was going to say
new PC soon.
Yeah, new PC soon, yeah. The cat's normally called the Bloody Cat, which I think is the same as your cat, isn't it? It's got the same name. Was that a sweet...
You can't say the Bloody Cat, James. We'll get the explicit tag now.
Are you drinking Stella? What was that?
Yep. Yeah, I am drinking Stella.
Yeah, okay. Just a little snifter in the morning, get yourself going. Excellent. Thank you so much for listening. It's an exciting couple of weeks ahead for us. We're not going to focus too much on 101. That'll be done really online through our Facebook groups. But we will keep you in touch with how things are going. But if you are interested in the 101 course, now is the time to make sure that you're on our list. You're in the Facebook community. So just go to selfpublishingformula.com and you'll get all the latest information when that stuff is all ready to launch. That's it from Cambridgeshire and Salisbury here in the United Kingdom. Have a great week writing and marketing. We'll see you next Friday.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing Formula podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingformula.com for more information, show notes, and links on today's topics. You can also sign up for our free video series on using Facebook ads to grow your mailing list. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.